Long before modern inventions, humans faced the same concerns about pregnancy and the spread of disease that we know today. They observed the consequences of unprotected intimacy and sought ways to prevent them, relying on ingenuity, observation, and natural materials. Their solutions were often simple, yet thoughtful, reflecting careful attention to the human body and the environment. In many societies, sexual health was not only a private matter, but also intertwined with communal well-being. People recognized that unwanted pregnancies or diseases could affect families, communities, and survival. This awareness motivated early experimentation and careful observation, creating the foundation for a long history of contraception. Even without advanced knowledge of biology or microbiology, humans noticed patterns. They saw that certain actions, substances, or materials seemed to reduce the likelihood of pregnancy or disease transmission. These insights, though limited by the understanding of the time, were crucial in guiding early methods. The motivation to protect oneself was often intertwined with culture, religion, and tradition. Some practices were guided by spiritual beliefs, rituals, or taboos, which shaped the materials and techniques used. In these early methods, science, superstition, and careful observation often coexisted in surprising harmony. Across continents, the need for contraception was universal. From the deserts of Egypt to the river valleys of Mesopotamia, from the villages of Europe to the courts of Asia, people sought ways to manage fertility. Each culture adapted its methods to the materials available locally, creating a wide variety of approaches. Materials played a central role. Early humans experimented with natural barriers, animal parts, and plant-based substances, finding solutions that were practical and adaptable. These materials were often processed carefully to improve durability, comfort, or effectiveness, showing remarkable creativity. Observation of the human body was key. People noticed the effects of menstruation, timing, and physiological responses. They experimented with insertion methods, topical applications, and physical barriers, learning through trial and careful attention to what seemed to work. Even children or young people in ancient societies were taught, in subtle ways, about bodily awareness and safety. Knowledge was passed down gradually through observation, stories, and mentorship, ensuring that practical wisdom could be shared while remaining integrated with daily life and cultural norms. While effectiveness was often limited, early contraceptive methods were valued for the sense of control they offered. People understood that even imperfect protection was preferable to complete risk, creating a balance between hope, caution, and ingenuity that guided sexual practices. Beyond pregnancy, disease prevention was another motivator. Sexually transmitted infections, particularly in urban or trading centers, were a serious concern. People learned that certain barriers or substances could reduce risk, offering both physical protection and psychological reassurance. Experimentation and adaptation were constant. Individuals and communities refined their methods over generations, improving techniques, discovering new materials, and sharing insights. This ongoing process reflected human curiosity, attentiveness, and the persistent desire to live safely and comfortably. Ultimately, the story of early contraception is a story of human observation, adaptation, and creativity. Even without modern science, people found ways to influence the outcomes of intimacy, combining practicality, resourcefulness, and cultural knowledge to navigate the challenges of fertility and health. Long before modern medicine, humans quickly realized that unprotected intimacy came with consequences. Pregnancy, disease, and social complications shape daily life, influencing survival, family planning, and community dynamics. The awareness of these risks prompted careful observation, experimentation, and the slow development of protective measures. Pregnancy was not merely a personal concern, but a communal one. Families relied on stability, resources, and planning to ensure survival. Unplanned children could affect food supply, inheritance, and social order. People recognized the need to influence reproduction, and they sought methods that offered some degree of control. Disease was another driving factor. Though people did not understand germs as we do today, they noticed patterns, how illness spread between partners or among community members. These observations encouraged the use of barriers, herbal applications, and other preventive measures that provided a sense of safety and reassurance. Cultural norms influenced the approach to protection. In some societies, contraception was openly discussed, integrated with rituals, or guided by midwives and elders. In others, secrecy and discretion shaped methods, with knowledge passed carefully from one generation to the next, often through stories or subtle instruction. Economic and social stability often relied on controlling fertility. Large families were valuable in some contexts, while smaller families were preferred in others. People adjusted their protective methods accordingly, demonstrating a remarkable understanding of the interplay between reproduction, labor, and social structure. Timing was also observed. People noticed that certain periods of the menstrual cycle were more likely to result in conception. Even without detailed biological knowledge, early observers adjusted their practices based on experience, creating primitive methods that reflected patience, attentiveness, and trial-and-error learning. Some methods targeted male responsibility, while others were applied by women. Shared awareness of protection and cooperation between partners highlighted an understanding of intimacy as a collaborative act, requiring attention, care, and forethought in order to reduce risk. Early humans also linked protection with natural cycles. Lunar phases, seasonal changes, and environmental cues were used to guide timing, whether to avoid conception or minimize exposure to potential infection. This integration of observation and environment created a rhythm to life that was both practical and meditative. Knowledge was often shared orally, passed down through families, communities, and teachers. People relied on careful instruction from midwives, healers, or elders, combining practical experience with cultural traditions. This gradual accumulation of wisdom allowed methods to evolve slowly, adapting to local conditions and materials. While effectiveness varied widely, the mere attempt to prevent pregnancy or disease reflected human ingenuity. People experimented with materials, herbs, and behaviors, learning from success and failure. The process nurtured problem-solving skills, patience, and creativity, laying the groundwork for more advanced methods in later centuries. Behavioral methods were a central component. Withdrawal, abstinence during certain periods, and careful observation of fertility cues were common practices. These approaches required discipline, attentiveness, and cooperation, fostering a calm awareness of one's body, partner, and environment. Understanding the need for contraception was therefore a holistic endeavor. It encompassed observation of the body, the environment, cultural norms, and social dynamics. This multi-layered awareness reflects the subtle sophistication of early humans, showing that even without modern science, they sought thoughtful, effective ways to navigate intimacy and health. In ancient Egypt, the earliest written records suggest that people were already exploring ways to prevent pregnancy and protect against disease. Their methods combined observation, herbal knowledge, and practical ingenuity, reflecting a culture deeply attuned to both the human body and the natural world. Herbal remedies were widely used. Egyptians experimented with plants and substances that were thought to influence fertility. Some herbs were applied directly or mixed into pastes and liquids, forming a natural barrier or altering bodily functions to reduce the likelihood of conception. Women often relied on pessaries, small objects or plugs inserted into the vagina. These could be soaked in honey, acacia gum, or other sticky natural substances believed to block or neutralize sperm. While not always reliable, these methods represented careful experimentation and thoughtful application. Honey, in particular, had multiple uses. Beyond its sticky consistency, it was known for its antibacterial properties. By combining honey with other ingredients, Egyptians attempted to prevent disease transmission while also acting as a contraceptive, blending practical effectiveness with natural healing. The use of linen sheaths was also recorded. Men sometimes wore thin linen coverings during intercourse, creating a barrier that offered some degree of protection. While rudimentary, these early sheaths show an awareness of the need for direct intervention to reduce risk. Observation played a critical role in Egyptian methods. Women and men carefully monitored the effects of their practices, noting which herbs, placements, or timing strategies seemed effective. This trial-and-error approach was subtle, meditative, and rooted in attention to detail, rather than hurried experimentation. Medical texts and scrolls reveal that priests and healers often guided these practices. Contraceptive knowledge was sometimes preserved as sacred wisdom, intertwined with religious rituals. This gave the methods both practical and symbolic significance, blending physical protection with cultural meaning. Ancient Egyptians were also aware of the timing of intercourse relative to fertility. By observing menstrual cycles, they developed early behavioral strategies, combining natural rhythms with herbal or physical methods. This integration created a holistic approach to contraception, balancing body, nature, and practice. Community and family knowledge was essential. Mothers, midwives, and elders passed down advice in calm, attentive ways, ensuring that younger generations learned how to use herbal pastes, pessaries, or linen sheaths effectively. This slow, careful transmission of wisdom helped preserve knowledge across generations. Beyond pregnancy prevention, protection from disease was a concern. Ancient Egypt faced risks of infections, and combining sticky substances, natural barriers, and careful hygiene offered a measure of safety. These methods reflect an intuitive understanding of health, even without knowledge of germs or bacteria. While not foolproof, Egyptian contraceptives show a remarkable blend of creativity, observation, and cultural integration. People relied on their senses, their environment, and accumulated knowledge to navigate intimacy with mindfulness, patience, and care. Ultimately, ancient Egypt provides a vivid example of how humans have long sought to influence reproduction and protect health. Through herbs, physical barriers, and careful observation, Egyptians demonstrated an enduring creativity and attentiveness that would echo through history, shaping early approaches to contraception for centuries. In the ancient lands of Mesopotamia and Babylonia, humans developed inventive ways to manage fertility and protect against disease. These early societies, with their bustling cities and intricate social structures, fostered methods that were practical, thoughtful, and deeply connected to the natural world. Herbal concoctions were central to Mesopotamian practices. Plants, resins, and natural oils were combined into pastes or liquids that could be applied to the body or inserted into the vagina. These mixtures were believed to reduce the chance of conception, offering an early form of preventive care that relied on observation and experimentation. Women often used pessaries made from clay, honey, or animal fats. These small objects were inserted to block sperm, creating a subtle barrier that required patience and attention to use correctly. The combination of sticky or dense substances with careful placement reflected both intuition and accumulated knowledge. Men sometimes employed simple coverings crafted from linen or other natural fibers. These early sheaths provided a physical barrier during intercourse, demonstrating an understanding of how direct intervention could influence outcomes. Though primitive by modern standards, these methods showed remarkable ingenuity. Timing and observation were also critical. Mesopotamians noticed the correlation between menstrual cycles and fertility, allowing them to plan intercourse accordingly. Behavioral strategies, combined with herbal or physical barriers, created a holistic approach to contraception that integrated body awareness, environmental knowledge, and social wisdom. Healers, priests, and midwives played a key role in preserving knowledge. They guided the use of herbal remedies, pessaries, and linen sheaths, blending practical instruction with ritual and cultural significance. This careful transmission ensured that contraceptive wisdom remained within communities, passed down with calm attention and respect. Fertility rituals sometimes accompanied contraceptive practices. Certain herbs or pessaries were imbued with symbolic meaning, reflecting the belief that protection was not only physical but also spiritual. This integration of ritual and practical knowledge demonstrates the deeply interconnected view of health, fertility, and daily life. Children and young adults learned through observation and guidance. By watching and participating in the preparation of herbal mixtures, the crafting of barriers, or the timing of intimate activities, they absorbed practical knowledge while developing patience, attentiveness, and respect for natural processes. Beyond preventing pregnancy, there was awareness of disease transmission. Sticky herbal substances, careful barriers, and attention to hygiene provided a measure of protection against infections, showing that Mesopotamians were concerned not only with reproduction, but also with overall health. The materials used reflected local availability. Clay, honey, oils, and linen were adapted to the context of cities and villages, demonstrating an ability to work creatively with natural resources. Each material was carefully chosen, prepared, and applied, highlighting the combination of practicality and observation in early contraceptive methods. Experimentation and refinement were ongoing. People learned which substances or objects were more effective, and knowledge evolved gradually over generations. Trial and error, guided by observation and experience, shaped the subtle, thoughtful approaches to fertility management in Mesopotamia. Ultimately, the practices of Mesopotamia and Babylonia illustrate the enduring human desire to understand, influence, and protect one's body and well-being. Through a blend of herbal remedies, physical barriers, timing, and ritual, these ancient peoples cultivated methods that were both practical and reflective, laying the groundwork for future innovations in contraception. In ancient Greece, the approach to contraception reflected a delicate balance of observation, philosophy, and practical experimentation. People sought to manage fertility while also considering personal health, aesthetics, and cultural norms, creating methods that were thoughtful, inventive, and closely connected to natural rhythms. Herbal remedies remained central. Greek physicians and midwives experimented with plants, resins, and oils, creating pastes, pessaries, or ointments. These were believed to influence fertility and sometimes to reduce the risk of disease, blending an early understanding of bodily processes with careful attention to natural substances. Women often used pessaries crafted from materials like wool, lint, or plant fibers. These were sometimes soaked in herbal or honey mixtures to create a sticky, protective barrier. Such devices required patience and precision, reflecting a careful, meditative approach to prevention that relied on observation and skill. Linen sheaths and cloth coverings were also employed. Men occasionally used thin linen or cloth wraps during intercourse, creating a physical barrier. While not fully reliable, these coverings illustrate an understanding of the need for direct intervention and a growing awareness of bodily interaction in preventing conception. Greek philosophy contributed to a reflective approach to sexual health. Thinkers like Hippocrates observed human physiology, fertility, and seasonal changes, noting patterns that could guide behavior. This intellectual curiosity combined with practical experimentation to refine methods, encouraging both observation and mindfulness. Timing was an important consideration. Ancient Greeks recognized the influence of menstrual cycles on fertility and developed behavioral strategies to avoid conception. By combining awareness of the body with herbal or physical interventions, they created a holistic system that was both practical and contemplative. Community knowledge played a vital role. Midwives, healers, and family elders transmitted guidance carefully, teaching younger generations how to prepare herbal mixtures, craft protective barriers, and observe fertility cues. This calm, attentive instruction helped preserve wisdom and maintain continuity across generations. Some methods had dual purposes: protection and ritual. Certain herbs or mixtures were thought to carry spiritual significance or to promote overall health, blending physical prevention with symbolic meaning. This connection reinforced a reflective, patient approach to contraception. Children and apprentices learned through hands-on observation. They watched the preparation of herbal remedies, the careful use of linen sheaves, and the timing of practices. Slowly, they absorbed an intuitive understanding of the relationship between body, environment, and time, cultivating attentiveness and patience. Beyond fertility, disease prevention was also considered. Sticky herbal substances, hygienic practices, and protective barriers were used to reduce the spread of infections, showing that early Greek practices aimed at holistic health, not just reproduction. The materials used reflected local resources and ingenuity. Linen, wool, honey, and plants were adapted creatively, demonstrating the ability to work with what was available. Each method combined practicality, observation, and experimentation, highlighting the careful attention Greeks paid to natural processes. Ultimately, contraception in ancient Greece demonstrates a thoughtful integration of philosophy, observation, and practical care. By blending herbal remedies, physical barriers, timing, and education, the Greeks cultivated methods that were both effective in their context and reflective, showing a deep human desire to understand and guide intimate life with mindfulness. In ancient Rome, contraception and protection were practical concerns woven into everyday life, reflecting a culture that valued personal health, social order, and ingenuity. Romans adapted techniques from earlier civilizations, including Greece and Egypt, while introducing new methods shaped by their own experiences and materials. Herbal remedies remained central to Roman practices. Women used mixtures of plants, resins, and oils to influence fertility, often applying them as pessaries or topical pastes. These substances were believed to act as protective agents, blending observation of the human body with the natural world in a calm and thoughtful manner. Animal bladders and intestines were commonly used as early physical barriers. Men would carefully shape and prepare these materials to cover the penis, creating a simple sheath that reduced the likelihood of conception. While not perfectly reliable, these coverings reflect Roman resourcefulness and practical problem-solving. Women also employed sponges and cloths. Small, absorbent devices could be inserted to block sperm, sometimes soaked in herbal or chemical mixtures. These methods required patience, skill, and careful placement, demonstrating an intuitive understanding of how physical barriers could influence outcomes. Timing and behavioral strategies were equally important. Romans observed menstrual cycles and experimented with withdrawal or abstinence during fertile periods. By combining bodily awareness with protective materials, they created a layered, meditative approach to contraception that emphasized both practice and observation. Midwives and physicians played a critical role in guiding these practices. Knowledge was transmitted carefully, often privately, blending hands-on instruction with cultural understanding. This gentle transfer of wisdom ensured that young women and couples learned effective methods while maintaining discretion and respect. Herbs like silphium, a now extinct plant highly valued for its contraceptive properties, were integral to Roman practices. It was used in pastes, drinks, and pessaries, reflecting the thoughtful integration of botanical knowledge into intimate care and the sophisticated experimentation with natural resources. Contraception in Rome was often intertwined with social and spiritual practices. Certain herbs or mixtures carried symbolic or ritual significance, highlighting the cultural importance of fertility management. Protection was seen not only as a practical concern, but also as a reflection of balance and care within relationships. Children and apprentices observed quietly, learning through participation and guidance. By watching midwives prepare herbal remedies, men craft bladders, or women use sponges, they absorbed subtle knowledge about the body, timing, and protective methods, cultivating patience and attentiveness over time. Romans also considered disease prevention. Some methods, like coated sheets or herbal applications, offered protection against sexually transmitted infections, showing that early contraception was connected to a broader understanding of health, hygiene, and personal responsibility. Materials were adapted creatively to local availability. Animal intestines, bladders, honey, wax, and plant extracts were combined in thoughtful ways, demonstrating the ingenuity and adaptability of Roman society in addressing intimate concerns. Ultimately, ancient Rome illustrates a sophisticated and reflective approach to contraception. By blending herbal remedies, physical barriers, timing, and careful education, Romans cultivated methods that were practical, mindful, and integrated with daily life, showing an enduring human desire to navigate intimacy with awareness and care. In ancient China, the approach to contraception blended practical observation, herbal knowledge, and philosophical insight. People sought to manage fertility, promote health, and maintain harmony within the family, reflecting a holistic view of life and the body. Herbal remedies were central to Chinese contraceptive practices. Plants, roots, and seeds were combined into pastes, powders, or liquids, sometimes ingested and sometimes applied directly. These natural substances were believed to influence fertility and maintain overall well-being, reflecting a careful and thoughtful integration of nature and human experience. Silk sheaths were occasionally used as physical barriers. Men would use thin strips of silk, crafted and prepared carefully, to cover the penis during intercourse. While primitive compared to modern condoms, these coverings represent early experimentation with materials and a reflective approach to protection. Women also employed vaginal inserts made from herbs, sponges, or other plant-based materials. These devices acted as physical or chemical barriers, requiring patience and careful placement. They demonstrate an intuitive understanding of how the body could be protected through both observation and practical intervention. Timing and behavioral strategies were observed closely. Chinese physicians and midwives paid attention to the menstrual cycle, seasonal changes, and bodily signs to guide intimate practices. This knowledge allowed couples to plan intercourse with mindfulness, integrating natural rhythms into daily life. Midwives and family elders played a crucial role in transmitting knowledge. They instructed women and young couples on the preparation of herbal remedies, the crafting of protective barriers, and the careful observation of fertility. These lessons were shared with patience and care, ensuring continuity of practical wisdom. Some remedies carried symbolic or spiritual significance. Certain herbs and mixtures were thought to align with Taoist principles or balance bodily energies. This integration of ritual, philosophy, and practical application demonstrates the holistic nature of early Chinese approaches to contraception. Observation was key to understanding effectiveness. People carefully monitored which herbs, mixtures, or devices worked best, refining techniques over time. This patient experimentation encouraged attentiveness, reflection, and a meditative approach to intimate care. Children and apprentices learned through quiet observation and participation. By watching adults prepare herbal pastes, construct silk sheaths, or use plant-based inserts, they absorbed practical knowledge while developing patience, attentiveness, and respect for natural cycles. Disease prevention was also considered. Some herbal preparations were believed to reduce infections, reflecting an intuitive awareness of the importance of hygiene and personal health. Contraception and protection against illness were closely intertwined in daily practice. Materials were adapted to local availability. Silk, plant fibers, herbs, honey, and other natural substances were creatively combined, demonstrating ingenuity and the thoughtful use of resources. Each method balanced practicality with attentiveness to natural processes. Ultimately, ancient China illustrates a deeply reflective approach to contraception. By combining herbal remedies, physical barriers, timing strategies, and philosophical insight, people cultivated methods that were practical, mindful, and harmoniously integrated with daily life. showing an enduring human desire to navigate intimacy with care and awareness. In ancient India, the approach to contraception was deeply intertwined with Ayurvedic medicine, cultural practices, and careful observation of the human body. People sought methods that were practical, harmonious, and aligned with the rhythms of life, reflecting a thoughtful balance between health, fertility, and personal care. Herbal remedies were central to Indian practices. Plants, seeds, and natural resins were combined into pastes, powders, and liquids. Some were ingested, while others were applied directly or inserted. These substances were believed to influence fertility, regulate bodily functions, and maintain overall well-being, illustrating a deep understanding of natural resources. Vaginal inserts were commonly used. Women employed sponges, cloth, or plant-based materials, sometimes soaked in herbal mixtures. These acted as barriers to prevent conception and required careful preparation and placement, reflecting attentiveness, patience, and practical skill. Timing and behavior were also important. People observed the menstrual cycle, body signs, and seasonal patterns to determine optimal times to avoid conception. This knowledge created a layered approach that combined awareness of the body with practical interventions, integrating natural rhythms into daily life. Ayurvedic texts provided guidance. Healers and midwives offered instruction on the use of herbs, the crafting of protective devices, and the observation of fertility signs. This wisdom was passed carefully, often in quiet, attentive ways, ensuring continuity across generations. Some remedies carried symbolic significance. Herbs and mixtures were sometimes selected not only for their physical effects, but also for their alignment with spiritual or energetic principles. This blending of practical and symbolic understanding reflects the holistic worldview of ancient India. Men also played a role in early contraceptive practices. Physical barriers, such as cloth coverings or animal membranes, were occasionally used, demonstrating cooperation and shared responsibility in managing fertility and health. Observation and experimentation were essential. People carefully monitored which methods were most effective, refining techniques over time. This patient process encouraged attentiveness, reflection, and a calm, meditative approach to intimacy. Children and apprentices learned gradually through observation and participation. Watching elders prepare herbal remedies, construct inserts, and apply timing strategies nurtured patience, careful attention, and a practical understanding of the human body and natural cycles. Disease prevention was closely linked to contraception. Some herbal mixtures or barrier methods were believed to reduce the risk of infection, reflecting an early awareness of the connection between fertility, sexual health, and overall wellness. Materials were adapted creatively to local conditions. Plant fibers, honey, resins, and natural fabrics were combined thoughtfully, demonstrating ingenuity and resourcefulness in addressing intimate needs with care and mindfulness. Ultimately, ancient India offers a rich example of holistic contraceptive practices. By blending herbal remedies, physical barriers, timing strategies, and spiritual insight, people developed methods that were practical, reflective, and attuned to the rhythms of life, showing a deep human desire to navigate intimacy with attentiveness and care. Across the diverse landscapes of ancient Africa, people developed a wide array of contraceptive methods rooted in observation, natural materials, and cultural practices. Communities adapted to local environments, drawing on plants, animal products, and behavioral knowledge to manage fertility and protect health. Herbal remedies were central in many African societies. Leaves, roots, and seeds were carefully combined into pastes, powders, or infusions. Some were applied directly or inserted into the vagina, while others were ingested. These natural methods reflected careful experimentation and an intimate understanding of the properties of local plants. Physical barriers were also employed. Small sponges, cloth inserts, or coverings made from animal membranes were used to block sperm during intercourse. These methods required patience, attention to detail, and skill, demonstrating an intuitive understanding of how physical intervention could influence outcomes. Timing and behavioral strategies played an important role. People observed menstrual cycles, seasonal patterns, and fertility cues to guide intimate practices. By combining awareness of the body with practical methods, African communities developed a layered, thoughtful approach to contraception that emphasized patience and observation. Midwives, elders, and healers were central to the transmission of knowledge. They carefully instructed young women and couples in the preparation of herbal remedies, the use of physical barriers, and the observation of fertile periods. This careful, deliberate passing of wisdom ensured continuity and effectiveness across generations. Some methods carried spiritual or symbolic significance. Certain herbs, charms, or rituals were thought to enhance protection, aligning physical practices with cultural beliefs. This integration reflects a holistic understanding of health, fertility, and daily life, blending practical care with cultural meaning. Observation and experimentation were constant. People noted which herbs or methods seemed most effective, refining techniques over time. This patient process encouraged attentiveness, reflection, and mindfulness, fostering a meditative approach to intimate care. Children and apprentices learned through quiet observation and hands-on guidance. Watching elders prepare herbal pastes, craft inserts, and track timing nurtured careful attention, patience, and a deep understanding of both the body and the environment. Disease prevention was intertwined with contraceptive practices. Some herbal mixtures or physical barriers were believed to reduce the spread of infections, reflecting an early awareness of the connection between fertility management, sexual health, and overall well-being. Materials were adapted creatively to local conditions. Animal skins, plant fibers, resins, and natural fabrics were thoughtfully combined to create effective protective measures, demonstrating ingenuity, resourcefulness, and respect for the natural world. Community life reinforced these practices. Knowledge was shared quietly and attentively, often integrated with ceremonies, rituals, and daily routines. This careful social transmission helped maintain both practical effectiveness and cultural continuity. Ultimately, ancient African contraceptive practices illustrate the remarkable adaptability, creativity, and attentiveness of early humans. By blending herbal remedies, physical barriers, timing strategies, and cultural insight, communities cultivated methods that were practical, reflective, and harmoniously integrated with the rhythms of life. During the Middle Ages in Europe, contraception evolved within a unique cultural and religious context. People continued to seek ways to manage fertility and protect health while navigating social norms, religious teachings, and limited access to materials, creating methods that were often subtle, reflective, and carefully observed. Herbal remedies remained an essential part of contraceptive practices. Women used mixtures of plants, seeds, and oils to create pastes, pessaries, or drinks that were believed to reduce fertility. These methods reflected careful experimentation, patience, and a deep understanding of the natural properties of local flora. Animal membranes, particularly from sheep or goats, were sometimes fashioned into early sheaths. Men used these coverings during intercourse to act as physical barriers. While not perfectly reliable, they demonstrated ingenuity and a practical approach to fertility management, balancing caution with everyday needs. Timing and observation were also important. Women often tracked their menstrual cycles and periods of fertility, using behavioral strategies such as abstinence or withdrawal to reduce the likelihood of conception. This integration of bodily awareness with physical or herbal methods reflects the thoughtful, patient approach of the era. Midwives and wise women played a central role in passing down knowledge. They taught younger women and couples how to prepare herbal remedies, use physical barriers, and observe timing cues. Instruction was given carefully and attentively, ensuring the preservation of practical wisdom despite the societal restrictions of the time. Some remedies carried symbolic or spiritual significance. Herbs and other substances were sometimes believed to carry protective or mystical properties, blending practical contraception with ritual, prayer, or charm. This combination demonstrates the holistic worldview common in medieval Europe. Children and apprentices learned through observation and participation. By watching midwives prepare remedies, craft protective devices, or guide behavioral strategies, they absorbed both practical skills and an intuitive understanding of the body, fertility, and cycles of life. Disease prevention was also a consideration. Sticky herbal mixtures, physical barriers, and attention to hygiene were applied to reduce the risk of infections, showing that early Europeans were concerned not only with fertility, but also with broader aspects of sexual health. Materials were adapted to local conditions. Linen, wool, honey, plant fibers, and animal products were used creatively, reflecting both resourcefulness and attentiveness to the properties of available substances. Each method required careful preparation and thoughtful application. Community life and social norms shaped contraceptive practices. Knowledge was shared quietly within households and among trusted midwives, blending secrecy with careful teaching. This preserved methods while respecting cultural and religious expectations. Experimentation and refinement continued through generations. People observed outcomes, adjusted mixtures or techniques, and passed on lessons learned. This patient, reflective approach encouraged mindfulness, attentiveness, and care in all aspects of intimate life. Ultimately, contraceptive practices in the Middle Ages demonstrate the persistence, creativity, and attentiveness of humans navigating fertility. By combining herbal remedies, physical barriers, behavioral strategies, and cultural understanding, people developed methods that were practical, reflective, and deeply integrated with daily life. During the Renaissance, Europe experienced a revival of learning, observation, and experimentation, and this curiosity extended to matters of fertility and contraception. People sought more effective ways to manage reproduction, drawing on herbal knowledge, imported materials, and a growing interest in anatomy and physiology. Herbal remedies continued to play a central role. Mixtures of roots, seeds, oils, and resins were used to create pastes, pessaries, and drinks designed to reduce fertility. These remedies required careful preparation and thoughtful application, reflecting both observation and the artistic approach to natural materials common in Renaissance thinking. Animal intestines and bladders remained in use as early physical barriers. Men would prepare these materials, cleaning and shaping them carefully to provide a protective covering during intercourse. Though rudimentary, these methods showed increasing attention to hygiene and effectiveness compared to earlier periods. Women often used sponges, cloths, or other absorbent materials as vaginal inserts. These were sometimes soaked in herbal mixtures to enhance their protective properties. The process required patience, careful placement, and attentiveness, reinforcing a meditative approach to managing fertility. Timing and behavioral methods were observed more carefully than ever. Knowledge of menstrual cycles, fertility periods, and bodily signs was refined through study, personal experience, and guidance from midwives. Couples learned to combine observation with protective methods for a layered, thoughtful approach. Midwives and healers played a vital role in transmitting knowledge. They taught preparation of herbal mixtures, crafting of protective devices, and careful timing. Instruction was given with attention, ensuring that wisdom was preserved and passed down in a practical and culturally sensitive way. Imported herbs and spices introduced new possibilities. Trade brought access to plants with perceived contraceptive properties, expanding the range of remedies and demonstrating the growing interconnectedness of knowledge, culture, and natural resources. Some methods carried symbolic or spiritual significance. Herbs, charms, or ritual practices were integrated with practical measures, reflecting a belief in the connection between health, fertility, and the larger order of life. This combination reinforced attentiveness, patience, and reflection in intimate practices. Children and apprentices learned quietly through observation and participation. By watching adults prepare remedies, craft barriers, and apply timing strategies, they absorbed a careful understanding of both the body and natural cycles, cultivating patience and mindfulness. Disease prevention remained a concern. Herbal pastes, physical barriers, and attention to hygiene were applied not only to prevent pregnancy, but also to reduce the spread of infections, highlighting the interconnectedness of health, fertility, and daily life. Materials were adapted creatively to the local environment. Linen, animal membranes, sponges, herbs, and resins were combined thoughtfully, demonstrating ingenuity, resourcefulness, and a deep respect for natural properties. Careful preparation and skillful application were essential. Ultimately, Renaissance Europe shows a period of refinement, experimentation, and thoughtful integration. Contraceptive methods combined herbal knowledge, physical barriers, behavioral strategies, and spiritual insight, creating practices that were practical, reflective, and carefully attuned to daily life, observation, and the rhythms of nature. During the 16th and 17th centuries, Europe saw notable innovations in contraceptive practices. With increased awareness of sexually transmitted diseases, particularly syphilis, and the continued desire to manage fertility, people began experimenting with materials, techniques, and preparations in new ways. Animal intestines and bladders became more widely used as protective sheaths. Men carefully cleaned and prepared these materials to act as a barrier during intercourse. While their reliability was limited, the consistent use of such coverings shows growing attention to hygiene, effectiveness, and practical application. Linen sheaths and fabric coverings were also common. Men would wrap finely woven cloth to create an early form of condom, sometimes treated with oils or other substances to improve flexibility and comfort. These methods required patience, skill, and careful preparation, reflecting an evolving understanding of protective materials. Herbal remedies continued to play a central role. Women used pastes, pessaries, and infusions made from various plants, resins, and natural substances. Some of these were applied vaginally, while others were ingested, combining practical experimentation with attentive observation of effects. Timing and behavioral strategies were refined further. People observed menstrual cycles, fertile periods, and physical signs of ovulation to guide intimacy. The combination of these behavioral approaches with physical or herbal methods created a layered and thoughtful system for managing fertility. Midwives and physicians guided practice carefully. They passed knowledge from generation to generation, ensuring that young women and couples understood how to prepare remedies, use physical barriers, and observe fertility cues. Instruction was attentive, deliberate, and deeply embedded in cultural and social norms. Some innovations were influenced by trade and exploration. Imported herbs and materials expanded the possibilities for remedies and devices, reflecting the growing interconnectedness of European society and the subtle blending of local and foreign knowledge. Certain methods carried symbolic significance, often intertwined with spiritual beliefs or ritual practices. Herbs or protective devices might be thought to carry mystical qualities, providing both practical protection and psychological reassurance in a reflective, patient approach to intimacy. Observation and experimentation were ongoing. People carefully noted which herbs, pastes, or barriers were most effective, refining techniques gradually. This slow, attentive process encouraged mindfulness, patience, and a meditative approach to intimate care. Children and apprentices learned through careful observation and participation. Watching midwives, healers, and family members prepare remedies, construct barriers, and apply timing strategies helped them absorb practical knowledge and an intuitive understanding of the body, cycles, and natural rhythms. Disease prevention remained closely linked to contraception. Sticky pastes, herbal coatings, and careful barriers were used to reduce the risk of infection, showing that early Europeans valued not only fertility control, but also overall sexual health and personal well-being. Materials were adapted creatively to local conditions. Animal intestines, linen, herbs, honey, and plant extracts were thoughtfully combined to create functional protective devices, demonstrating ingenuity, careful attention, and respect for natural resources. Ultimately, the 16th and 17th centuries illustrate a period of refinement, creativity, and experimentation. People blended herbal remedies, physical barriers, behavioral strategies, and symbolic practices, creating methods that were practical, reflective, and harmoniously integrated with daily life and observation. The 18th century in Europe marked a time of wider use and refinement of contraceptive methods. People became increasingly concerned with both fertility control and disease prevention, adapting existing techniques and experimenting with new materials to meet the practical demands of everyday life. Animal intestines and bladders continued to be popular as physical barriers. Men carefully cleaned, prepared, and shaped these materials into protective sheaths. While their effectiveness was limited, the increased attention to hygiene and fit reflects a growing awareness of the body and practical methods to influence outcomes. Linen and cloth sheaths were also refined. Men wrapped finely woven fabrics, sometimes treated with oils or waxes to improve flexibility and comfort. These early coverings show ingenuity and thoughtful experimentation with available resources. Balancing practicality with attentiveness to materials. Herbal remedies remained essential. Women used pastes, pessaries, and infusions crafted from plants, resins, and natural oils. These substances were applied vaginally or ingested, and careful observation allowed people to learn which combinations seemed most effective, illustrating patient experimentation over time. Timing and behavioral strategies were widely practiced. Couples observed menstrual cycles, fertility periods, and physical cues to guide intercourse. These practices, combined with physical barriers or herbal remedies, created a layered, reflective approach to contraception that emphasized mindfulness and attention to detail. Midwives, apothecaries, and physicians played an important role in guiding knowledge. They instructed women and couples in the preparation of remedies, the use of barriers, and the observation of fertility cycles. This careful transmission of knowledge preserved practical wisdom and ensured continuity across generations. Some methods carried symbolic or ritual significance. Herbs, charms, or mixtures were believed to carry protective qualities, blending practical contraceptive measures with cultural and spiritual meanings. This combination encouraged a meditative, reflective approach to intimacy and fertility management. Observation and experimentation were ongoing. People carefully noted which remedies, pastes, or physical devices worked best and adjusted their techniques gradually. This patient process fostered attentiveness, reflection, and a calm, deliberate approach to managing intimate life. Children and apprentices learned quietly through observation and participation. By watching adults prepare herbal remedies, craft barriers, and apply behavioral timing, they absorbed both practical skills and an intuitive understanding of the human body and natural cycles. Disease prevention was also considered. Herbal coatings, sticky pastes, and physical barriers were applied to reduce the spread of infections, showing that contraception was closely tied to broader concerns about health, hygiene, and well-being. Materials were adapted creatively to local conditions. Animal intestines, bladders, linen, plant fibers, and herbal extracts were combined thoughtfully to create effective methods. Each technique required careful preparation, skillful application, and attentive use. Ultimately, 18th century Europe reflects a period of refinement, creativity, and patient experimentation. Contraceptive practices combined herbal remedies, physical barriers, behavioral strategies, and cultural insight, producing methods that were practical, reflective, and integrated with daily life and the rhythms of the human body. As knowledge of herbs and natural substances expanded, early chemical methods of contraception began to emerge. People experimented with mixtures designed to reduce fertility, using the properties of plants, minerals, and other natural elements to influence reproductive outcomes. herbal pastes and powders were carefully prepared. Ingredients such as acacia gum, honey, and various plant extracts were combined to create substances that could be applied vaginally. These mixtures often acted as physical barriers, while some were believed to alter bodily processes in subtle ways, reflecting patient observation and experimentation. Liquids and infusions also played a role. Some herbal or mineral concoctions were ingested, while others were applied topically. These preparations required careful measurement, timing, and application, demonstrating a thoughtful, methodical approach to early chemical contraception. Women often relied on pessaries and sponges soaked in these mixtures. The devices acted as both physical and chemical barriers, combining tangible protection with subtle biochemical effects. This layered approach reflects an attentiveness to both practical outcomes and the properties of natural substances. Timing and observation were critical. People studied menstrual cycles, fertility periods, and other bodily cues to determine when to apply remedies for maximum effectiveness. By combining chemical preparations with behavioral awareness, they created a meditative and thoughtful approach to fertility management. Midwives, apothecaries, and elders played a central role in guiding the preparation and use of chemical contraceptives. Knowledge was transmitted carefully and quietly, ensuring that practical wisdom was preserved while maintaining cultural sensitivity and discretion. Some mixtures carried symbolic or ritual significance. Herbs, minerals, or other ingredients were sometimes chosen not only for their practical effects, but also for spiritual or protective properties. This integration of material and symbolic meaning reflects a holistic understanding of contraception in early societies. Observation and experimentation continued over generations. People monitored which ingredients and combinations appeared most effective, refining recipes and methods slowly. This attentive process encouraged mindfulness, patience, and careful reflection on the human body and its natural cycles. Children and apprentices learned by observing elders prepare remedies, soak sponges, and time applications. This quiet, attentive participation nurtured practical knowledge, patience, and a deep understanding of fertility management and bodily awareness. Disease prevention was often considered alongside fertility control. Certain mixtures were believed to reduce infections, reflecting an intuitive awareness of sexual health and the interconnectedness of body, hygiene, and intimate practices. Materials were adapted creatively to local availability. Plants, resins, honey, minerals, and other natural substances were combined thoughtfully, demonstrating ingenuity, attentiveness, and careful experimentation. Each method required skill, care, and observation. Ultimately, early chemical methods reveal a thoughtful blend of practical, reflective, and experimental approaches. By combining herbal and mineral preparations with physical barriers, timing strategies, and careful observation, people developed methods that were patient, attentive, and deeply integrated with daily life and natural rhythms. Throughout history, behavioral methods of contraception have complemented physical and chemical strategies. People learned to observe, anticipate, and adjust their actions, using timing, withdrawal, and abstinence as tools to manage fertility with mindfulness and care. Withdrawal, often called coitus interruptus, was practiced carefully and attentively. Men learned to control the timing of ejaculation, while women observed the outcomes over time. Though not perfectly reliable, this method demonstrates an early awareness of bodily processes and the capacity for patience, self-control, and cooperation between partners. Abstinence during fertile periods became an important strategy. By tracking menstrual cycles and other signs of fertility, women and men could plan intimate activity to minimize the likelihood of conception. This approach required careful observation, mindfulness, and disciplined attention to natural rhythms. Observation of fertility signs was central to behavioral approaches. People noted physical cues, timing patterns, and cycles, gradually refining their understanding through experience. These insights allowed couples to coordinate behavior with the natural ebb and flow of the body, creating a reflective and attentive approach to intimacy. Midwives, elders, and physicians guided the use of behavioral methods. They provided instruction on how to track cycles, identify fertile periods, and combine behavioral strategies with physical or herbal methods. This careful teaching ensured that knowledge was passed down responsibly and thoughtfully. Timing strategies were often integrated with daily routines. Couples learned to observe cycles over months and years, adjusting behavior in subtle, patient ways. This careful attentiveness fostered a meditative awareness of both the body and the environment, emphasizing mindfulness in intimate life. Children and apprentices learned gradually through observation. By watching adults track cycles, practice withdrawal, and apply timing strategies, they absorbed an intuitive understanding of fertility, patience, and the interconnectedness of body, nature, and daily routine. Some behavioral practices were reinforced by cultural or spiritual beliefs. Rituals, charms, or advice from elders often accompanied guidance on timing and abstinence, blending practical strategies with symbolic meaning and encouraging reflective participation in daily life. Experimentation and refinement were ongoing. Couples observed which methods were most effective, adjusted strategies over time, and combined behavioral approaches with herbal, chemical, or physical measures. This process nurtured attentiveness, patience, and thoughtful reflection on intimacy. Disease prevention was sometimes linked to behavioral approaches. Limiting sexual activity during certain periods or carefully selecting partners reflected an early awareness of risk management, showing that thoughtful, patient approaches were concerned not only with fertility but also with health. Materials were less central in behavioral methods, but tools such as sponges, cloth, or tracking charts sometimes supported practice. These additions complemented observation and self-discipline, creating a layered, mindful approach to managing intimacy. Ultimately, behavioral approaches reveal the reflective, patient, and attentive nature of human ingenuity. By combining observation, timing, self-control, and subtle practices, people developed methods that were practical, holistic, and harmoniously integrated with the rhythms of the body and daily life. The 19th century brought notable advancements in contraception, marked by the refinement of materials, growing medical knowledge, and increased awareness of sexual health. People sought more reliable methods to manage fertility, combining physical, chemical, and behavioral approaches with new innovations. Rubber, introduced during the mid-1800s, transformed physical barrier methods. Early condoms were made from vulcanized rubber, providing a more flexible, durable, and hygienic alternative to animal intestines and linen. This innovation allowed for wider adoption and greater effectiveness, reflecting both technological progress and careful attention to intimate health. Lace and fabric sheaths were also improved. Women and men experimented with fine materials, often treated with oils or chemicals, to enhance comfort and protection. These methods required patience, skillful preparation, and attentiveness to the properties of available materials. Chemical contraceptives continued to evolve. Herbal pastes, powders, and liquids remained in use, but new substances, such as spermicidal solutions, were introduced. These were applied vaginally, often in combination with sponges or cloth inserts, creating layered methods that blended practical observation with emerging chemical knowledge. Timing and behavioral strategies remained central. Couples observed menstrual cycles, fertile periods, and bodily cues to guide intimacy. By combining physical barriers, chemical preparations, and careful timing, people created holistic, reflective approaches to managing fertility. Midwives, physicians, and educators helped transmit knowledge. They instructed women and men in the use of rubber sheaths, chemical preparations, and timing strategies. This attentive guidance ensured that practical methods were understood and applied with care and mindfulness. Some methods carried symbolic or cultural significance, Certain herbs, mixtures, or rituals were believed to enhance protection, linking physical measures with broader social or spiritual beliefs. This blending encouraged patience, attentiveness, and reflection in intimate practices. Observation and experimentation continued steadily. Couples noted which materials, chemical mixtures, or timing strategies were most effective, refining techniques gradually. This careful process promoted mindfulness, attentiveness, and a meditative approach to reproductive health. Children and apprentices learned through quiet observation and participation. By watching adults prepare chemical mixtures, use physical barriers, and apply behavioral strategies, they absorbed both practical skills and an intuitive understanding of fertility, bodily cycles, and attentive care. Disease prevention was closely intertwined with contraceptive methods. Rubber sheaths and chemical substances offered some protection against sexually transmitted infections, highlighting an early awareness of the connection between fertility control, sexual health, and hygiene. Materials were adapted creatively to the industrial context. Rubber, cloth, plant fibers, and chemical mixtures were combined thoughtfully, demonstrating ingenuity, attentiveness, and skill. Each method required careful preparation and deliberate application. Ultimately, the 19th century shows a period of innovation, refinement, and thoughtful integration. Contraceptive practices blended physical barriers, chemical preparations, behavioral strategies, and cultural insight, producing methods that were practical, reflective, and harmoniously aligned with daily life and the rhythms of human observation. The early 20th century marked a turning point in contraceptive practices, with scientific understanding, industrial production, and social change coming together to expand options and awareness. People began to approach fertility management with greater knowledge, precision, and accessibility, reflecting both technological progress and cultural adaptation. Rubber condoms became more widely available and affordable during this period. Mass production allowed men to use these physical barriers more reliably, while improvements in design and material quality increased comfort and effectiveness. This innovation represented a significant advancement over earlier methods and highlighted the importance of observation, preparation, and careful application. Vaginal diaphragms and cervical caps emerged as popular methods for women. These devices, often used with spermicidal creams or gels, combined physical and chemical protection, creating a layered approach that required patience, precision, and thoughtful attention to proper placement. These methods reflected the growing intersection of technology, medicine, and intimate care. Herbal and chemical preparations remained in use, though modern contraceptives gradually began to replace many traditional remedies. People continued to experiment with ingredients, observing outcomes carefully to refine efficacy. This blend of old knowledge with emerging scientific understanding created a thoughtful and reflective approach. Behavioral strategies were still widely practiced. Couples observed cycles, timing, and fertility cues to coordinate intimacy. The combination of physical, chemical, and behavioral methods allowed for a flexible, attentive, and patient approach to managing fertility, integrating observation with practical action. Medical professionals played an increasingly prominent role in contraception. Physicians, midwives, and public health advocates provided instruction on the proper use of condoms, diaphragms, and spermicidal products. This careful guidance helped preserve safety, promote effective methods, and encourage reflection and attentiveness in personal care. Education and advocacy began to influence social understanding. Books, pamphlets, and discreet clinics provided information about contraception, emphasizing both health and responsible family planning. Knowledge became more widely accessible, fostering mindfulness and informed decision-making. Symbolic and cultural aspects of contraception continued, though they shifted alongside scientific progress. Some methods retained connections to traditional beliefs or rituals, blending cultural meaning with practical application, creating a reflective, Patient approach to fertility management. Observation and experimentation remained central. People monitored which methods were most effective, refined techniques over time, and combined approaches thoughtfully. This ongoing process nurtured patience, attentiveness, and a meditative understanding of human intimacy and reproduction. Children and apprentices learned indirectly through observation, education, and careful instruction from trusted adults. By witnessing preparation, application, and timing strategies, they absorbed both practical skills and an intuitive understanding of bodily awareness and reflective care. Disease prevention became increasingly recognized as integral to contraception. Physical barriers and spermicidal preparations reduce the risk of sexually transmitted infections, showing an early awareness of the link between fertility control, health, and hygiene. Materials were adapted creatively to industrial and urban contexts. Rubber, latex, fabric, and chemical agents were combined thoughtfully to maximize protection, comfort, and effectiveness. Each method required careful preparation, patient attention, and deliberate use. Ultimately, the early 20th century reflects a period of innovation, education, and refinement. By combining physical barriers, chemical methods, behavioral strategies, and emerging medical knowledge, people developed contraceptive practices that were practical, reflective, and deeply integrated with daily life, observation, and attentiveness. The mid-20th century marked a period of remarkable change in contraception, fueled by scientific discoveries, social shifts, and widespread industrial production. People began to have access to more reliable and varied methods, reflecting both technological advancement and a growing understanding of reproductive health. Rubber and latex condoms became more standardized, affordable, and widely distributed. Mass production ensured consistent quality, comfort, and effectiveness, making physical barriers a more dependable option for men. This advancement demonstrated how observation, preparation, and careful use could significantly improve contraceptive reliability. The introduction of the diaphragm and cervical cap for women gained popularity as well. Used with spermicidal creams or gels, these devices offered layered protection. Their design required careful attention, precise placement, and patient use, reflecting a thoughtful approach to managing fertility that combined technology with attentiveness. Chemical contraception advanced significantly with the development of spermicidal creams, foams, and gels. These preparations were applied vaginally to inactivate sperm, often in combination with mechanical barriers. This integration of chemical and physical methods emphasized patient observation, skill, and reflection in intimate care. Behavioral methods continue to be practiced, particularly rhythm-based strategies. Couples observed menstrual cycles and fertility signs, timing intimacy accordingly. When combined with modern devices and preparations, these methods offered a flexible and mindful approach to fertility management. Medical professionals and educators played an increasingly central role. Physicians, public health advocates, and midwives provided guidance on the proper use of condoms, diaphragms, and spermicides, ensuring safety and effectiveness. Careful instruction encouraged reflection, attentiveness, and informed decision-making. Social awareness and education expanded rapidly. Contraceptive information became more widely accessible through books, pamphlets, clinics, and public health campaigns. This allowed people to make more informed and reflective choices about fertility, hygiene, and intimate health. Cultural and symbolic considerations remained, though scientific understanding began to dominate practice. Some traditional herbs or rituals were adapted alongside modern methods, blending old wisdom with new technology and reflecting a patient, reflective approach to reproductive care. Observation and experimentation remained key. Couples monitored the effectiveness of various methods, adjusted techniques, and refined their approach over time. This careful process encouraged mindfulness, attentiveness, and a meditative understanding of the interplay between body, behavior, and materials. Children and apprentices learned through observation, education, and guidance from trusted adults. Watching the careful use of diaphragms, condoms, and spermicides nurtured practical skills, patience, and intuitive understanding of bodily awareness and cycles. Disease prevention became increasingly recognized as integral to contraception. Latex barriers and spermicidal preparations reduced the spread of sexually transmitted infections, emphasizing the connection between fertility control, health, hygiene, and mindful intimate care. Materials were adapted to the industrial and chemical advancements of the era. Latex, rubber, fabrics, and chemical agents were thoughtfully combined, producing methods that were comfortable, effective, and reliable. Each technique required careful preparation, observation, and attentiveness. Ultimately, the mid-20th century reflects a time of innovation, refinement, and integration. By combining physical barriers, chemical methods, behavioral strategies, and medical knowledge, people developed contraceptive practices that were practical, reflective, and harmoniously integrated with daily life, observation, and mindfulness. The late 20th century marked a revolutionary period in contraception, with the widespread introduction of the oral contraceptive pill transforming the way people approached fertility. Scientific research, medical advancements, and social change combined to offer unprecedented control over reproduction and personal choice. The pill provided women with a reliable, convenient, and discreet method of preventing pregnancy. Taken daily, it regulated hormonal cycles and offered a level of predictability unmatched by earlier methods. This innovation required careful adherence and attention, reflecting a thoughtful, deliberate approach to personal health and fertility. Alongside the pill, other hormonal methods began to emerge, including injectables, implants, and patches. These offered longer-term or alternative forms of hormonal contraception, providing flexibility and choice while emphasizing careful observation, timing, and adherence to medical guidance. Physical barriers remained widely used. Condoms, diaphragms, and cervical caps were combined with hormonal methods or used independently, creating layered protection. The thoughtful combination of physical and hormonal methods highlighted attentiveness, patience, and careful management of reproductive health. Behavioral strategies continued to play a role. Fertility awareness, rhythm methods, and careful observation of cycles complemented modern options, reinforcing mindfulness, attentiveness, and understanding of the body's natural rhythms. Medical professionals guided the safe and effective use of new contraceptives. Physicians, gynecologists, and public health educators provided instruction, monitored health, and ensured informed choice. This careful guidance encouraged reflection, attentiveness, and responsible use of the new technologies. Social awareness and education expanded dramatically. Information about contraception became widely available through clinics, books, media, and public health campaigns. This accessibility fostered informed decision-making, mindfulness, and a reflective approach to fertility management. Cultural adaptation continued. Some communities integrated traditional knowledge and practices alongside hormonal and modern methods, blending old wisdom with new science. This allowed a patient, reflective, and holistic approach to reproductive care to persist even in modern contexts. Observation and experimentation remained central. Women and couples monitored effectiveness, adjusted practices as needed, and learned through careful experience. This attentive approach emphasized mindfulness, responsibility, and patient engagement with personal health. Disease prevention remained closely intertwined with contraception. Condoms, both male and female, continued to play a crucial role in reducing the transmission of sexually transmitted infections, showing that modern contraceptive strategies were deeply connected to overall health and well-being. Materials and technology were refined. Pills, patches, injectables, implants, and latex barriers were designed for reliability, comfort, and effectiveness. Each method required patient attention, adherence, and careful application, demonstrating the thoughtful integration of science into daily life. Ultimately, the late 20th century reflects a time of empowerment, innovation, and careful reflection. By combining hormonal methods, physical barriers, behavioral strategies, and medical guidance, people developed contraceptive practices that were practical, reliable, attentive, and deeply integrated with personal health, mindfulness, and daily life. In the modern era, contraceptive methods have become more diverse, accessible, and reliable than ever before. Scientific research, technological innovation, and global public health initiatives have expanded options, allowing people around the world to choose methods that suit their needs, lifestyles, and values with attentiveness and mindfulness. Hormonal methods continue to evolve. Oral contraceptives, patches, injectables, implants, and intrauterine devices offer a range of choices for women, each requiring careful observation, timing, and adherence. These methods provide reliable control over fertility, empowering individuals to plan their lives thoughtfully and deliberately. Barrier methods remain widely used. Male and female condoms, diaphragms, and cervical caps provide protection not only against pregnancy, but also against sexually transmitted infections. Their thoughtful integration with hormonal methods, fertility awareness, or other strategies demonstrates a layered, reflective approach to reproductive care. Behavioral strategies continue to complement modern methods. Fertility awareness, cycle tracking apps, and mindful observation of bodily cues allow couples to engage with their reproductive health attentively, cultivating patience, reflection, and awareness of natural rhythms. Global perspectives have shaped access and cultural adaptation. Contraceptive practices vary widely across regions, reflecting local norms, resources, and traditions. In many communities, modern methods are combined thoughtfully with cultural knowledge, herbal practices, or traditional timing strategies, creating a reflective and patient approach to fertility. Medical guidance remains central. Physicians, public health workers, and educators provide careful instruction, monitoring, and advice, ensuring that individuals can use contraceptives safely and effectively. This guidance encourages mindfulness, reflection, and responsibility, reinforcing a thoughtful approach to intimate health. Education and awareness campaigns have increased access and understanding worldwide. Books, clinics, media, and digital platforms provide practical information, support, and counseling, helping people make informed choices with attentiveness and care. Knowledge empowers reflection, thoughtful decision-making, and personal responsibility. Observation and experimentation remain important. Individuals and couples monitor effectiveness, adjust practices, and reflect on outcomes, learning through experience while remaining attentive to their own needs and natural rhythms. This ongoing process encourages patience, mindfulness, and careful consideration. Disease prevention is closely intertwined with modern contraception. Condoms, vaccination programs, and education on sexual health contribute to reducing the spread of infections, emphasizing the integration of fertility management with overall health and well-being. Materials and technologies are continually refined. Latex, silicone, hormones, and advanced devices are combined thoughtfully to maximize comfort, reliability, and effectiveness. Each method requires careful use, attentiveness, and consistent application, reflecting a mindful approach to modern reproductive care. Cultural, spiritual, and personal values continue to influence choices. People around the world blend scientific methods with local knowledge, rituals, and reflective practices, creating a holistic, patient, and thoughtful approach to contraception that honors both personal and cultural perspectives. Ultimately, modern contraceptive methods reflect the culmination of centuries of human ingenuity, observation, and experimentation. By integrating hormonal, physical, behavioral, and educational strategies, people have developed practices that are practical, reliable, reflective, and deeply attuned to daily life, personal health, and mindfulness, illustrating the enduring human desire to navigate intimacy with care, attention, and thoughtful consideration.